I feel like no. Give me a phone book. Being 5 again. Okay. All right. So, welcome to our latest episode of Grave Crimes podcast, now visual podcast.
YouTube.
Yeah.
Asked.
YouTube cast. Something or other.
There you go.
I'm Cynthia.
I'm Heather.
And today we are going to discuss the Gettysburg Orphanage, also known as the Homestead. It had a very long name. I'm a really bad person, so I did all my research and I have a lot of it in my brain.
Lying. She did no research.
You know what? I'm going to prove it to you next time. But then I forgot it. So there's that. Thankfully, I wrote it out so many times that I remember it. So that's a good thing.
Now who's the overachiever?
By the way, so I don't know if I should bring this up now. I actually was laying in bed one night thinking about the Villisca axe murder episode that we did.
Yeah.
I had another thought. Oh. I know this is not that episode. But I feel like I want to revisit that for just a second and tell you my thoughts.
Okay.
And then people who are watching and have actually seen that one may have something to say.
Right.
Or people who have not seen it or heard it may want to go back and listen to it.
Okay.
Generating interest.
Okay.
I'm working on it. Oh, so we'll do that, then we'll do the drinks. So the fact that there was the Reverend.
Right.
See, now I'm starting to lean in your direction with the Reverend.
That's right.
I'll tell you why.
He did it.
So he would have been a trusted member, regardless of whether or not he was known in that particular community.
Yeah, just like people automatically, you would assume trust people in uniform, like,
right,
firefighters, police.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And certainly someone with the clergy would have been trusted.
Yes.
Right? So I'm wondering, did the Reverend go back to the house with them? Right?
Right.
Because that would potentially also explain the half uneaten meal on the kitchen table. Like he may have gone back to the house with them.
Maybe.
Because the mother was the one that was so responsible for planning this whole thing. Right? They may have invited him back. He was hungry. They made him something to eat.
Him going with them though?
I mean, I guess a lot of people went to bed probably a lot earlier back then. I mean, I don't go to bed early.
I do.
Yeah. This one. Like, I can't invite her to anything that's past, like, 7:30 on a weeknight.
If I have a lot of coffee, I'll be fine.
Yeah, maybe. Just a little bit. Anyway, so I'm thinking that maybe that's what they did. They invited him back.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he was hungry.
Yeah.
They made some food for him. They said they were going to go to bed, or whatever the case may be. They lock up the house, which would explain why everything was locked up from the inside.
Right.
Right? And maybe, like, he knew how to get out easily. Because that's the one thing that's also been bothering me is the fact that there was no discussion about how he got out of the location.
I don't know if they know.
Right? But I'm just putting it out there. So back to today's episode. So the Gettysburg Orphanage.
I love Gettysburg.
You know what? It was so hard when I was doing this not to include everything about Gettysburg.
I know. Well, I did like a little background, but we've been to Gettysburg.
Numerous.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a couple of times.
Yeah, I think. Yeah. For the paranormal and for the history part, and I love it so much. I want to go back again. Like,
this made me really want to go back.
Yeah.
Maybe not now, because it's kind of cold.
I'll go.
Yeah, then you can go by yourself on that one, because I'll like freeze my ass off. Just saying. So we chose a drink today that is actually called the Streets of Gettysburg. Mm-hmm. I was telling Heather before we started that I was really annoyed because we did find another option, which really would have been more appropriate for the orphanage. And the drink is called the Orphan, which sounds great in theory until you look at the ingredients. And we had enough problems getting the ingredients for this thing. That one needed cuttlefish ink. I mean, for it to be correct, right? You could make alternatives because obviously the ink would make the drink black, which was really freaking cool all by itself.
Right.
And the title. There were just so many great things about that drink, but I don't know where to get cuttlefish ink. So if anybody wants to send us some, maybe we can use it for another episode that has orphans in it. But what we did choose, like I said, it has coffee liqueur and sherry and rye and bitters and what else does it have in it?
Ice.
Sherry, And Benedictine, whatever the hell that is.
Like I was gonna write.
Yeah, I don't know what that's called. So we haven't tried it yet. So you're gonna get to witness visually or audibly whether or not we like it. Here we go. It's
That's a weird aftertaste.
It's a lot. What's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to say softer. It's not softer. It's a lot
Smoother?
smooth. Yeah, I think it's smoother than I would have expected. I'm sure the coffee liqueur probably helps. See, and we garnished it. Like, I'm gonna try to get this really close so you don't see my fat face too. But we garnished it with orange peel. And we put it in a mason jar because that would have been, I guess, kind of sort of appropriate at the time.
Definitely a weird aftertaste. It is smooth, but there's like that.
It's probably the coffee.
It could be. It could be.
Everything else is,
Or the bitters, because it's.
I did it. Look, it's
a little bitter for bitters.
I may have overdashed a little bit just because I didn't expect that many goddamn dashes to come out. I don't know what the hell a dash is. I'm assuming it's a drop.
I actually have a measuring spoon that's a dash.
Oh my god. Well, I don't think we need it anymore. I think maybe I overdid. So we'll need the
fine.
Measuring thingy.
It's not like I'm gonna not drink it. So that's that. I stamped my garnish in there to
definitely taste the coffee. Sorry. So you get a podcast and a lesson in alcohol, and I'm making a lot of effing noise. Just saying.
So Gettysburg. The state Gettysburg is in Pennsylvania.
In case you hadn't heard that before. I mean, for people who are out of the country, probably wouldn't know that yet. Okay, I'm just gonna shut up and drink and let you do the history.
I'm just gonna abridge it to like that. So we actually do have some international listeners. So for those of you that do not really know, Gettysburg was part of our Civil War. We had a Civil War here, which there was a bunch of issues actually, like a plethora of reasons why we did it. However, it was one of the most pivotal battles because it actually stopped the our Civil War was North and South, kind of. See, now I have to get the whole thing. Ow! It's like the whole thing.
Oh, jeez.
I mean,
we didn't drink before this, FYI.
Yes, North and South, and then the out west where they were doing like the 3/5 compromise, and they were. Is that what that was? I'm flashbacking. Wait. Anyway, you moving to certain states, getting the population either slave or anti-slave. It was a whole thing. Anyway, it was basically North and South. Okay? So. Anyway, it was one of the deadliest battles. It was a 3-day battle, and it actually put the North back into like the front running because they pushed Robert E. Lee and his people back. Back. You cannot take it. You cannot take these roads. They both wanted control of one road junction, actually. That was in Gettysburg, and then they kind of clashed. And so you get the battle. The Union, however, kept sending reinforcements. So as Robert E. Lee's forces were depleting, the Union was just like, nope, we're just going to keep respawning. Just send them. It says 165,000 men fought in Gettysburg. Actually, there were women, too.
Yes.
There were some women, and there were some freed slaves as well. 7,000 men died in the fighting. 33,000 were wounded. Oh, and then I put a little thing. So many children left without fathers.
Yes.
Sad. Yeah, true. Actually, when you go to Gettysburg, everywhere you walk is historical.
Yeah.
There
isn't a spot that isn't.
Yeah.
It's an amazing place, so if you've never been,
please go.
Yeah. Definitely go for the history, if not the paranormal.
I never was haunted.
Yeah, well, that too. I mean, and the theory is, not to jump ahead to the haunting part, but of course the theory is that any place with that kind of mass casualty and that kind of just massive trauma is more likely to have hauntings.
Right.
And of course there's also the theory of limestone and what the ground is made up of and all of those kind of aspects of it. So it's not really terribly surprising.
Right. And it was in the middle of a town. Yeah. So a lot of those battles were fought like that, but what's strange, it's just imagine now, I mean, now it would be very, I guess, but it does happen around the world. If troops were coming down your street.
Like your main road.
Your main road, shooting the hell out of each other, and then people were using your house as like a makeshift hospital.
Yeah.
So that's basically what happened all through Gettysburg, and that's why it is actually really haunted. We went to the Farnsworth.
Yep.
Which was an inn. Jenny Wade House, the only civilian to die in Gettysburg battle.
And it's funny because
shit luck.
Yeah, right. And she was trying to do something so nice for the troops. Like, she was at her sister's house, actually, which is what can be confusing when you go there, because the Jenny Wade house is called the Jenny Wade house, except it's not actually her house. It was her sister's house, and she was there to bake bread for the troops, and she was making like these packages of bread and water to give them to sustain them throughout the battle. And I had read somewhere people clearly don't pay attention. Like, they've been there and they're still not paying attention because, yes, didn't an artillery shell fall through their roof?
I believe so.
Remember this distinctly when we went on the tour.
A straight bullet, yeah.
So that happened, but it was not the cause of her death. The cause of her death was actually a stray bullet that came in through, actually went through 2 doors, went directly through her heart and killed her instantly. So, horrible story. But, like, I'm reading different websites for my research and whatever, and somebody's like, yeah, it was the artillery shell. I'm like, no, please.
There is, if you do go to the Jenny Wade house, actually, side story.
Great.
There is a hole in the door that supposedly, if you're a woman, you put your ring finger through if you're dating someone and you will marry them. Funny story. You, me, and someone else who shall not be named, all put our fingers through there, and we all broke up with that person.
Yeah.
Within like a couple months. So I don't know if it has a reverse effect on some people.
I guess maybe we put our finger through in the wrong direction.
Wrong side.
They're like supposed to go outside and then inside again and then do it. Like, no,
yeah, okay. Then we were all just like, oh, that did not work.
Yeah. Well, clearly we were not meant to be with those people.
Dodged a bullet, no pun.
Yep. Well, maybe a little bit of pun intended. So, yeah. So I think we should move on to the orphanage bit.
Definitely coffee.
Yep, definitely.
And the bitters.
You'll have to forgive me. There's something in my eye. Talk about very inconvenient timing. No, not really. Thanks, though. I appreciate the offer, but no. Don't know what might happen there. Listen, I have enough facial problems. So side story, I after the last episode that we recorded, I'm trying to like do my makeup. I'm like, all right.
I think it's the only time of the week I wear makeup.
Yeah, pretty much, right? So, and I'm like all about the contouring because I know the camera adds 10 pounds and I don't need any more of that. So I did this whole contouring thing along the jawline. And I texted Heather and I'm like, remember I told you my skin is super sensitive? Yeah, the next morning I woke up with a giant zit right under my chin. And so to counteract that, so I'd be prepared for the next episode and not look like I have Mount Vesuvius on my face, I overdid it. Really overdid it with the acne cream. And I was afraid I might come to this episode looking like a leper. Because there isn't a part of my face that wasn't peeling.
Skin peel.
Like, it actually was red and, like, burnt.
Ooh.
That's how bad it was. So I'm now wearing a lot of extra makeup, so you don't see that. But anyway, I digress. I think one of the important things maybe to start with was the fact that, like we were talking about, a lot of the quote-unquote orphans that were there were not technically orphans. So...
Which was common back in like, those times, and not even actually, even 80 years ago. My grandma was in an orphanage, and her father was alive, but her mother was dead.
Right.
So he would put her in the orphanage for a couple months at a time so he could make money.
Well, that makes sense.
So they were kind of like long-term babysitting.
Yeah. Well, in this case, it was slightly different in that because a lot of these children had lost their fathers, there was this belief that the mother would not be financially able to take care of the children.
She probably wouldn't be able to.
She probably wouldn't.
No.
But, it's really horrible to think that, you have to make this decision to give your child the best possible life, but you're literally just saying, here, go live with, like, this one person and 10 other children, or 50 other children. And it's really quite sad because, who wants to give their child up?
Yeah, I think their thought process was they knew they were going to have to struggle to feed themselves, and at least in an orphanage, as far as they were concerned, they were going to get 3 square meals.
Yep, they were going to get an education.
They were going to have clothes on their back.
Yep.
Like,
it was a better option as opposed to everyone struggling and whatever.
God knows what. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So they did build this orphanage after the war. they built it on the Gettysburg battleground where a lot of these kids actually lost their fathers.
Yeah, I thought that, if I misunderstood then maybe, because I knew there was a building this building that housed the orphanage was one that they actually had used as a hospital.
Mm-hmm. Well, a lot of the homes were used as hospitals.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it was used as a hospital during the battle. So not only were there soldiers that, were left dying and then would end up dead. Apparently, I had read that they left them in the basement, like the ones that were like terminal, they knew they weren't going to survive.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of put them downstairs, I guess, so that way when they did die, they didn't have to actually move the body. I
Right.
guess that's pretty crappy. But anyway, either way, well, basically, like you said, the whole town was the battlefield.
Yeah.
There's official battlefields, but the whole place was just not a good place to be.
Not at that time.
No. Did you see the story about how it became an orphanage, like how the whole thing started?
I know someone did like a fundraiser.
So
created by John Bournes.
yeah, so this I thought was very interesting, and I did get it from like historical sites from Gettysburg, not random people that just
Decided to
post whatever garbage they post. So apparently there was a soldier by the name of Amos Humiston,
Mm-hmm.
and he was in the middle of a battle. He was trying to help soldiers get to safety, and he was, kind of covering them, as it were. And he was obviously mortally wounded.
Is this the guy with the photo?
Yes.
Yes, I remember that. There's a plaque to him.
Yep. And there's actually, I think, also a statue somewhere on the battlefield.
For those of you that don't know, he was mortally wounded.
Yep.
And
so
sorry,
yeah,
I
no, that's
interrupted you
okay.
before. I was like, oh,
I remember this. So he was, I think, if I'm not mistaken, he was kind of like propped up against a tree and, got himself to that point. And he knew he was dying, so he took out the picture of his 3 children that his wife had just recently sent him. So that was, I believe, July 1st was when he was actually the first day of battle. He was mortally wounded, and she had just sent him this picture back in June. And he had written a letter to her shortly after he had gotten the picture, and he said something, and it was very sweet. It was just like, I'm obviously modernizing it, but it was basically like, I can't wait, I hope to get to see the children and my wife again, and hopefully we all live to see each other once more. And of course he dies. And he didn't apparently have any kind of identifying anything on him. Identification would have been the right word to use right now. So he didn't have any kind of identification on him. So the person that actually had found his body took the photograph, and this gentleman, John F. Burns from Philly, happened to be in the area. He became enamored with the whole story, and he actually submitted the photograph to a number of Northeast newspapers. And from what I understand, I think it was the American Presbyterian in like Yorkville, New York, I think it was called. I think it's a town. Again, bad me. Don't have my notes. But apparently only one person subscribed to the newspaper in that town. And it just so happened that person showed the photo to Humiston's wife. And then she wrote to the newspaper, and like there was a bit of confusion. She didn't actually find out that her husband had died until October.
And that was very common.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, I mean.
No airplanes to carry mail back and forth.
Yeah.
So it took a little while.
Took a bit.
So Mr. Burns, whatever his name is, decided to actually start selling the photograph to raise money. And he helped to build this orphanage for children who had lost their father in the war.
Mm-hmm.
I also heard, skip ahead a little bit, I also heard he ended up being an embezzler. He was stealing money.
Shocker.
From the orphanage he helped to start. So there may have been a bit of an ulterior motive there. But anyway, so do you want to... And the wife of Humiston was the original headmistress. She moved there.
Oh, that's right, yes.
With her kids.
She was beloved.
Yeah, they absolutely
they
adored
loved
her.
And it was only 12 boys and 10 girls when it first opened. So it was relatively small.
And 3 of the kids were hers.
Right. But by a couple years in, there was like 40 or something of kids there. And they had to add like a second wing onto.
Yeah, I think they had one that was meant for just the girls. Like they started to separate them, boys and girls out, kind of thing. And then in comes
Just side note.
the side note. Okay.
Actually, you know what movie I watched last night?
No.
And it made me think of All Quiet on the Western Front. Have you ever
Okay.
watched that?
No, I haven't.
I highly recommend that movie. I haven't watched it in years. It's dubbed over because I think it's in German.
Oh, really?
It's like from the German side.
Oh.
Oh, so good.
I'm gonna have to watch that.
Yeah, and it just sort of like the war and like people dying and then finding like their letters and all that.
Yep.
That's basically.
Well,
Yeah, that's.
I mean, there's still people that go to Gettysburg and do like, I don't want to call it a treasure hunt, but you know, like they do metal detecting and stuff like
They
that.
don't have that anymore.
No, they don't. But well, I think certain areas you can get special permission. I guess
Right.
if you're like from a historical society or whatever the case may
Whatever.
be. I will go to Gettysburg and work in the historical society so I can go do that because
Listen, I'll
I
just
would
do
love
it.
to do that.
I'll
And
just
just
do
get
it.
arrested. It's okay.
Yeah, I ran across the field in the middle of the night. I don't care. Stop me.
But my point was that there are still things out there, and they still find, you know, belt buckles and
Mm-hmm.
artillery shells and all kinds of stuff going on. So it's not like
There's a tremendous amount of people through there in a very short period.
yes,
And a lot were buried in a lot of
yep,
like
makeshift.
yeah, graves and stuff. I do understand them saying not to go digging. I guess you don't want to disturb an actual site that might be important. But if it's just a little bullet.
I mean, not for nothing, but there's also a lot of. Didn't we go there and like we were in the woods by Sachs Bridge at
We
some
found
point?
like an arrowhead or something.
Yeah, didn't we also find a deer that was dressed in men's pants?
I think we did.
Just saying. So
He was dead.
yeah, so he was not living and like
He was
walking around
He's like,
strutting.
hey guys. Yeah.
Yeah, no. There was a dead deer, and it was disturbing on so many levels. Obviously, I don't like to see a dead animal. Not my favorite thing in the world. P.S. I saw a black cat in the sump over here by your house on the service road, and I may just go by there later on the way home. What? Who said that?
He
Yeah,
dressed the deer.
yeah, literally. Yeah, it was weird. It was very weird. So there are clearly parts of that general vicinity that are not really like, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm trying not to like have big pauses for you who are listening, not watching. You know, it's not like regulated per se.
Yeah.
Right? So there's woods. There's just woods. Like all of that was there at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So like, what's the big deal if you say, okay, you know, here's a site, and if you want to go and do your metal detecting, like,
Right.
you can do it, but you have to be observed by somebody from the town or whatever.
Yeah,
Like-
or just like people go fishing. Like you have to, you know, throw
Get a
back
permit.
fish that are A, B, and C. If you find certain artifacts, this, and that, then you have
Well,
to turn them over.
I think that's what was happening, is that a lot of people were finding artifacts, not turning it over to like the historical society or whatever, and then they would just fuck off with it.
Yeah.
I was like, here, let me sell this on eBay for $300,000. And imagine they found something that was a real historic value that belonged in a museum.
It all belongs in a museum.
It all belongs in a museum. But I'm just
Indiana
saying,
Jones.
like, you know, the whole, like, the shells and stuff like that, after a while, it's like, all right, you found a lot of those things. Got it. Okay, cool. But, you know, I feel like they should have to maybe bring it to the historical society and they like, track them. But really, who cares if somebody takes one of those home? It's the big things that are the problem, you know? So anyway,
We digressed.
we're like
Left and
squirrel.
right, yeah.
Yep, we're all over the place. So anyway.
So back to the orphanage.
Mm-hmm.
In comes this nasty bitch,
Rosa
Rosa J. Carmichael.
Yeah, she wasn't very nice at all.
So she treated the children terribly. There's a basement there that she apparently used as a dungeon.
It's also there's a part of it dubbed the pit.
Yes, that's you and I crawled into.
Yep.
Oh, that's
Because
a whole story.
where don't we go? Like, you know, everybody's like, I'm not going in there.
The
We're like, yeah,
pit
get out of
is
the way.
like dirt and mud, and Cynthia and I were like, and it's by the way, it's like 3 feet high.
Yep.
We like army crawled in there, and we just
Because why not?
why not? Yes. So let's see. So yes, she used the dungeon to discipline unruly children, and if anyone knows children, they're all unruly.
Yeah, that's just kind of part of being a child.
Yes. So
I mean, you know.
and to me, those are my favorite kids, the ones that are a little nuts. Oh, I love those kids.
Yeah, a little bit.
But yes, she apparently would chain them to walls. She had her stick boys.
Yep.
Which would beat the other children.
And she would stand there and like egg them on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I also had seen that she had one girl stand on a desk until like she literally had to be picked up off the desk because she couldn't even stand up or like climb down any longer because she was so exhausted.
She locked the boy in an outhouse.
5 years old in winter. The fuck is wrong with people? Like, really?
I mean, it's terrible enough to have to go to an outhouse, but imagine being locked.
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, and apparently two men that, I guess, I
He
don't know if
was
they were walking by or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they came in and they released him. And this is what gets me about all this, right? So you have this child that is found locked in the outhouse. Now, granted, she may have threatened these children and said, if you tell anybody what's going on.
She might have said, oh, he got locked in there in an accident. I was so worried about him.
Right. So if he says, she locked me in there, and again, she may have threatened these children with, like, further harm if they told the truth. So he may have said, oh, I got locked in, or whatever the case may be, because he was afraid of her. But I just feel like there were just so many things. I also saw something about, like, this one girl that was forced, or children that were forced to stand in a vat of water, like, until they became so exhausted that they would almost drown because they couldn't stand up anymore.
I think they actually told us that, too, when we went to...
You know what? That was so long ago that, you know, I'm going to rely on you for some of that memory, because...
Oh, God.
Yeah. I hope you remember it. I remember going down there, and I remember things about the group that was kind of, like, leading this, but we'll get into that when we get into the paranormal stuff. Right?
But Jesus, yes.
Yeah. But she was just an awful human being.
She was arrested for cruelty for one orphan. She was indicted on 3 accounts, and she was, I guess, found guilty of 1. She was charged $20.
Which is about, I looked it up, it's about like $550 today.
Okay.
Which isn't, it's still a lot considering.
Right.
And court fees, she had to pay her court fees.
And then she went back to the orphanage.
Because, and she wasn't supposed to do that. So part of her sentence was that she leave town. They did not want her. I mean, I don't know. Like, they didn't really think this through, right? You need to leave. But, like, did they have anybody go to the orphanage to care for the children? No, they just left them there. Like, it would have been one thing if when she had been arrested and then she was charged, they had said, okay, we already sent somebody. And if this bitch shows up again, call the police. But they didn't do that. They just, I don't know what the hell they did, but she was able to go back. And she was there for another year.
Think of all the damage she did after that, because she was probably furious.
Oh, yeah. I wonder, and they don't, like, what all the research that I found, they didn't specify, like, what years certain things happened, just the torture. You'd be surprised at how little information. I had to go to, like, so many different sites to find out what she did.
Right.
It's not, I don't know if it's because it's such a sensitive subject, but, like, even on, like, the official sites from Gettysburg, there were not a lot of details about what she had done.
Well, no, because I'm sure none of the kids spoke about it. Or...
No, although there was one.
That's the quote I have, yeah.
Yes. So there was one child that kind of, did he get out?
I don't know. Well, because there's, I think, 2. This one is different than this one.
Which one do you have? Because I remember,
Well, I have... Okay.
There was one about the kid that the friend that came.
Right. So I have this one, which I'll read.
Okay.
Back in high school.
Story time.
One day, a boy came to visit his friend in the orphanage when Rosa said he died. It was very sudden and nothing could have been done about it. They paid his respects and went home to tell his father.
Wait, did they... See, that's the thing that got me too, because I had seen that. Whose father? The boy that went to go visit went home to tell his father? Or the boy that went to go visit went to go tell the friend's father that he was dead?
I think it's the dead kid's father, which is why I'm confused.
I know, it's not that we don't research, it's that sometimes the research we do find...
There's a lot of holes in the older it gets, there's a lot of holes in some of this.
Yeah.
Well, the father went around to the local doctors to see how the young boy died. Every doctor in Gettysburg replied that they had not went to the orphanage for any boys. I'm reading like I'm reading to children. The father became suspicious and contacted the local authorities. They questioned Rosa, asking why the doctors didn't know about the boy. And Rosa said the doctor was passing through and was closest to the orphanage and left town the night before. The cops thought that was understandable, but needed something to tell the father to get off their backs. She did not have an answer for that. Well, the cops left. Eventually, they found out that Rosa killed the boy, and later found out that there was a skeleton of a young boy under the orphanage.
Yeah. And there were also, that was the other thing, there were a number of reports of children that went missing. And apparently nobody seemed to give a shit. So.
Well, you didn't have anyone advocating for these kids.
Right. But that's the thing, too. Like, if some of them were taken away from their mothers or left there by their mothers, weren't they permitted to go see them?
Yeah, but maybe she knew who to victimize.
Maybe. Clearly. But then the other kids, wouldn't they say something? I mean, unless she's threatened them.
Yeah, fear.
And said, if you say anything...
Think of all the abused children
whatever.
when CPS goes and they'll be fine, everything's fine.
Forget it. It's disgusting.
And then there was a boy with a missing left arm, which I wanted to find more about that, but I couldn't. He came from the orphanage, and he said his sisters were forced to wear men's clothing as punishment, and...
Yeah, because they didn't fix their dresses. That's a good reason, right?
Yeah. And he also spoke about the boy being locked in the outhouse in winter.
Yeah.
So, now we have some kids coming forward. Maybe he felt a little safe. And then Rosa was charged again.
Yep.
She denied all charges, but the orphanage was closed.
And this time she was officially run out of town. Like, they made sure she left. And apparently there's no record of her, like, after the fact.
She probably changed her name and worked at another orphanage.
Probably. Well, not much has changed in some aspects, right? Because people do shit like that all the time.
Yeah.
Today, I mean. Yeah. So that is the
terrible
crime portion of it, right?
Yeah.
So now I guess we can move on to the haunting. What are we, owls? How did that happen?
It's supposed to be like a goblin or a ghost.
Oh, yeah, that sounded fucking scary. Rustling of paper sounds a little more frightening. Maybe.
Right. So, that's what I wanted.
That's what you wanted to do. Got it. You're not a very good ghost. I know that if, God forbid, you should go before I do, if I hear I'll know it's you. Yep, got it. So is this any kind of order here?
No.
Oh, goody. So she hands me notes and just like...
So I figured...
Here, have at it.
I figured we would talk also about... We did an investigation, actually, at this orphanage.
We did, if you can call it that.
So we had... One of the times we had gone there was during a conference, a paranormal...
Phenomenology.
Conference.
I checked to see if they're still doing it. I haven't seen anything.
No, I looked too.
I got sidetracked and I couldn't finish checking. But
so
anyway.
we were one of the vendors.
Fun.
That was amazing, except the goddamn soap. But we were one of the vendors there. Do you remember when he woke us all up at like 6 a.m?
Listen, fucker.
And no one even started setting up for like 4 hours. We all wanted to murder you.
Let's be fair. Okay, so we all agree. I just want to let you guys know. We all agreed to do this goddamn conference, which I so kindly kind of took the lead on and said, okay, like I'll organize and whatever. And you and I spent a lot of time making soaps and candles and all sorts of other shit for this conference.
Yes.
The whole point of going there was for the paranormal. It was to represent our organization. It was to sell some shit so we could make more money, so we could buy more equipment.
For our organization.
Right. So these fucks, right? Now we are supposed to, I think the conference was supposed to start at, I want to say 8 or 9. Which meant that they were opening the conference hall earlier than that for everybody to set up. Fine. So apparently I'm the mom of the group, even though I'm older than her, but not the oldest there. Okay? So I'm the one that's apparently the only responsible person because they all fucking go out, have a good time, don't go to sleep until 4 o'clock in the morning, they're fucking hungover. And nobody wants to get up when my alarm goes off at like 6 because we still have to get dressed and we all have to use the bathroom.
It was like 5.
Okay. And again, there were 4 of us in the goddamn room, which meant that 4 people had to shower and get dressed. And if you wanted, I don't know, get coffee so you're not dragging ass and eat something to get there for 7 o'clock.
Hotel coffee was not even open yet when she got us
off. How about that? And then, so the doors are supposed to open at 7 or 6:30 for people to start setting up.
Mm-hmm.
So the person that you really should have wanted to throttle were the people in the hotel because I risked life and limb getting these people up and ready for the goddamn conference, and these assholes didn't open the door.
Bill, he was vicious.
Steve was not a happy camper either.
No.
Matter of fact,
I feel like I just complained, but I feel
I
like,
was complaining too, but
I feel like they were like.
But could you
mean.
imagine
Yeah.
had we not actually gotten up in time, and we would have overslept and not been down there until like 11 o'clock in the afternoon, the shitstorm that would have happened with everyone else in the group?
We did get a great spot, I will say. We were
did.
next to John Zappis.
Mm-hmm.
And, oh God.
And how did we manage that one?
The guy that I insulted, that has his
Well,
own
that's
pronoun.
sometimes normal for you. Intentionally or not, because you kind of just insulted me.
He made me mad. The guy that has his own show now. Dave Schrader. We were next to him.
For a second, I had no idea what you just said. Dave Schrader?
Dave Schrader.
Not whatever. That just
Dave
came.
Schrader. Yes.
It just came out really. Was that the ball? That's the ball guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because he debated one of my historical facts, and then I went in, and then he didn't talk to me for the rest of the time. I was just like, I pissed him off.
So anyway, point being, right? So I get these assholes out of bed, right? Steve now has PTSD whenever he hears the song "Crazy Bitch," because it was the only thing I knew would wake me up. And I'm one of those people that sleeps like the dead, no pun intended, right? So if I need to get up, the alarm needs to be at the loudest volume humanly possible. So at 5 a.m., "Crazy Bitch" goes off as loud as humanly possible. So Steve now turns the radio off whenever it comes on. Yeah, so apparently that really left a lot of trauma behind. But the worst part was, right, so we all get dressed, we go downstairs, we are ready to set up now, whether we wanted to or not. Those motherfuckers didn't open the door. Do you remember that? That's probably the worst part.
Yes.
So everybody hates me, but not the hotel. Nobody says a word about them. Or the fact that they didn't show up and do what they were supposed to do on time. We were there. We were ready. I remember sitting on the couches and everyone was still falling asleep. Do you remember that?
Yes, I remember
Outside
trying to sleep on the couch and being like, this bitch got us up and then not even open.
Like this was my fault. You all got the same shit I got. You all knew this was when it was supposed to happen. I didn't tell you to go out and have too much of a party. I was out partying too.
Chip coffee.
Random.
No, was it Bill that scared him? With the Burger King?
No, that was Steve. So Steve's brother actually met us up there and brought his Burger King costume.
The Burger King.
The actual Burger King costume.
I don't know why.
And it was Stacy Jones.
And chip coffee.
No, but
Oh, she was the one that was scared.
Okay, so if none of you know who Stacy Jones is, she is actually an ex-cop. I think a detective.
Yeah, oh, and you could tell, like, when you're talking to she don't
take
mess
shit.
you up. Yeah,
she's
awesome.
tough, right? But awesome human being. So Steve has a stupid costume, and apparently that's the one thing she was afraid of. He literally chased her, and she was jumping over tables to get away from him.
She could move.
Yeah, and like there's a picture of her. I have to find it and put it up with the podcast because it's really funny. Like her looking at him like I'm gonna fuck you up. It was great. I mean, we had a lot of fun. I mean,
we had a great time.
And actually, when it was our break, is when you and I went to a couple of places in town and like did
Nerdy
shopping,
shit, yeah.
historical shit and whatever. And that was a whole other
But
thing.
now, every time...
And then getting stuck at Saxbridge. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember that. We told someone not to go and park there.
In the mud. Fucking idiot. Women
Pouring rain.
Women are stupid, apparently, right? We don't know anything about cars or how to park. Yeah,
I mean, granted, I probably...
How many hours later?
Oh my god, that was so bad.
In the fucking rain. Stuck.
We had to be dragged out of the mud. That was terrible.
At least it wasn't my car.
I don't think we'd have got your car out of there. This was a pickup, right? Wasn't this a pickup or a truck?
No.
Oh, truck.
No, it was like a Ford.
Oh, what am I thinking? Oh, that's when I pulled it out.
Yeah. I had this Lara, which definitely would not have, I was not stupid in putting my car in that situation, but whatever. Moving on.
But, so yeah, there were a lot of like popular people, I should say, in the paranormal community there. And everyone was super nice. And we were going to go to the orphanage for an investigation.
Yep. And we did. With another pseudo-famous set of people, right?
Yeah, there were 3. Which...
2... Okay, that was... What the hell were their names? Constantino. I could never
Yeah.
Debbie.
She bought soap from us.
Mark Constantine?
She did. Yeah, and Mark and Debbie Constantinos.
Okay.
Who were like EVP experts.
I won't say anything with the other person.
No, they unfortunately have passed away in a domestic violence type of incident.
And the other person who was there with us, I don't think we should name names because we'll tell you what they did do, just not
or didn't do. So yes, and there were also like lay people, I should say. Like we had notoriety at that point because we were connected with a group.
Another large group
well that was on TV.
Yeah.
Whatever. Anyway, so
and there were a lot of people from the conference, so there were people like who were known in the paranormal community, so to speak.
And yeah, for the most part, everyone was awesome.
Yeah.
So we were there with some people from like, I guess just tourists or whatever, and these 3 other professionals. And everybody was would you go down to the basement? There are like benches and stuff that everyone was sitting and setting up on.
And they have all the toys, like the kids' toys and stuff.
Toys, and then they have the pit, which was dirty.
It was just horrible. And mind you, like we had flashlights and there were lights set up down there. I cannot even begin to imagine as a child having to be brought, like, spend any time down there in the dark.
No. And it was very dark. And the pit, no one wanted to go in because it was just a layer of like sandy dirt. And 3
like
feet in the air, and the stone walls, the spiders, and Cynthia and I were like, we're going in there. And
I'd do it again today.
And
I may not be able to get out.
I mean, honestly, that was probably, to me, that would have been the most active spot. So I was like, why not? But everyone else was kind of like gearing towards the more famous people.
Yeah.
And
you didn't really care.
No, but the
person whose name we will not mention, is that who you're referring to?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Was very dramatic.
Very.
Let's just say it's a well-known male psychic.
Yeah, psycho. Sorry.
Extremely dramatic, like freaking people out. The Constantinos were getting some of their EVPs and stuff like that, which we got EVPs, which we had to try and find and post. But
we'll post it in the comments of the video, I think.
Maybe.
Just because we're relatively good with technology. Editing videos, maybe not so much. Or I have a hard enough time with the audio, and there we are. But anyway, continue.
So what I'm not used to doing, and they did, which is I guess why they were so good at it. They would play back their recorder in real time, like listen,
which is very unusual for us.
Yeah, and I would just let mine go the entire night, and then go listen another time. But they were catching things, but this psychic was like really dramatic, like the children are here, Saint Michael is here, and we're going to release these children.
Yeah. He's going to he's going to cross them over. So if you remember, we nicknamed him the Paranormal Crossing Guard.
Oh yeah. Yeah, he was crossing all the children.
So apparently, there are no children left, no children's spirits left in the orphanage.
Even though we got an EVP after he crossed them over.
So if you decide that you want to go visit it, don't expect any kind of paranormal activity because apparently they're all gone.
He crossed them all over.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
We were sitting in the pit
ass.
What the? Yeah, it was just, we were giggling, I should say, quite a bit.
And this is what pisses me off, is that it's people like that that turn the paranormal into a fucking joke.
Yes.
And like, we have a friend that he's been involved in the paranormal for quite a long time, Mike, for a long time. He's actually done 2 different movies. One was 14 Degrees, which is basically a documentary about the paranormal and how different groups got into it and their own theories. He just does it from the standpoint of like, here, listen to what all these different people have to say and their thoughts. Like, he doesn't take a position on it one way or the other, really. Although he does interject his own thoughts. But he doesn't really speak to what everybody else says. And then he also did the movie for John Zaffis, which was supposed to be a pilot for a show, and that was a whole other conversation, but I was in that one. I got to be in that one. Me, Steve, Annette was also in that. Yeah. But anyway, so moving right along. But my point was that he's the type of person that wants to do this from a scientific standpoint. Like, he wants to actually create devices that are scientific. He made his own Tesla coil. He made his own, like, I don't know what the hell it's called. I'll have to ask him the next time I see him. But it's like this helmet that measures, like, certain electrical activity or something I don't know. He's too sciencey for me, like mental level genius, right? But he does it from a science standpoint, and like half the people that were in the group didn't want to be bothered with that.
Right.
And it's like that's the perfect way to do it, because if you want people to believe, and you can provide them with scientific proof that,
and people still may not believe even if you
Right,
have
well,
scientific proof, but at least you can back it up.
people still think the Earth is flat. So there's that. I mean, look, if that's you, more power to you. Whatever works for you. Cool. I'm not trying to like argue that with anyone. Whatever works for you. But anyway, so yeah, I mean, I can't remember if I got any EVPs. I don't know if I actually did an EVP session there because I felt like it was too busy.
I think that's the thing. We did one in the pit, but the pit, like I said, it was all dirt. But then there was like a tunnel entrance. You had to like crawl in there. And then there was everybody else doing their thing. So I think we thought there was too much sound contamination.
Yeah.
So I don't think we were like, if we catch anything,
It
unless
was
it's
like
right
20 or
by the
30
mic, it's not
people.
worth it.
It was quite a few. So
that museum is shut now.
That makes me sad.
I know. I don't like that.
Probably because of morons.
I do remember the floor being kind of like this, so I don't know if it's just not safe or less
That could
funding. Like the upstairs floors were a little, so I don't know, but they should fix it because
they turned it into a diorama museum, which I thought was kind of cool.
Yeah, I was
like
one of
that
those
word.
in second grade.
I like that word. Just saying. Anyway, so we should probably talk about the experiences. People have had a number of different things. I've seen people have talked about their hair getting pulled.
But people see like a little boy.
Yeah, they see small shadows.
Yeah, and then they'll try and take a picture and he's gone. They get sounds of like chains rattling.
Not surprising.
Yeah.
And isn't it the original chains that are actually still there, which is just disturbing all by itself. Yeah. I don't remember obviously the Constantinos did get their own EVP evidence, and I think we did get a couple. Because you had your recorder. I have to look. I can't remember. That's why I told you my memory is shit. And I can't remember. I'm sure I do. We did so many investigations, and I have so many EVP files. It's not even funny.
I know, and I barely remember where any of them are from. Except for like one or two that like made like an impact. Because, God forbid,
well, that's why I name things, so that I remember what
I named them like, boy says hi.
Yeah, that doesn't help.
And then I'm like, where did he say hi? Where were we?
You see, this is why, like, everybody makes fun of me. My husband especially, because he's IT, and he picks on me because if you go into my Outlook at work, I have a million folders. But if you ask me for something, I will be able to find it. All of my homework, everything is, like, categorized. I like organizing, so that's just me. I like little organizing tools.
Can we talk about how annoying this is? So I printed an article out, and a pop-up came up. And I guess when I hit print, the pop-up printed on the words. So I couldn't...
That's really obnoxious.
I'm a little upset.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think. It's tough because there are so many things that people have seen there in particular. There's also... people have mentioned that the stuffed animals and things that have been left behind for the children to play with, that they'll come back. Like, I think the person who is in charge of the museum, when it was still active, they would, people would leave a teddy bear or a Raggedy Ann doll or something like that. And then I guess the person in charge would go down there later on, and it had been moved. Yeah. After everyone had left, obviously.
I personally feel like there's probably buried bodies there that they haven't.
Oh, I wouldn't doubt it, because I'm sure that, if a kid dies in the pit, what's the easiest place to bury him, right? It's just, the whole situation is horrible. And it's tough, too, because there is so much going on in the town overall. Yeah. That it's almost hard to tell without... This is the one case where I haven't really seen anybody say they did an EVP session and got a name. Right. Of anyone. A lot of times when you have these locations that are very famous and very active, somebody will say they got an EVP, or they used the ghost box and they talked to this person or that person and they got a name. This is the one place that I didn't see anything like that. Nothing with a specific name or a date, anything. Like, it was just standard. And you know what? Also, I noticed really no footsteps. Granted, if you're downstairs in the basement specifically, You're not really going to hear them. This is dark, but I would think even then you'd still hear something. And there wasn't anything. And I remember one report of a woman who was on a tour, and she was sitting on one of the benches, and there was a woman sitting next to her, and she felt somebody grab her arm, and she thought, because they were telling the story, and it was obviously very heart-wrenching, that the woman had grabbed her arm. When she turned around, the woman was facing the opposite direction. So it clearly was not a living person that had grabbed her arm. But other than that, like, it's there's a lot of reports, but it's a lot of the same thing.
Yeah.
Which leads me to somewhat believe that it might be residual versus intelligent.
I hope it is, because
yeah, I do too.
I will say in the pit area, we didn't like the feeling.
No.
It was very like dark, but again, if we were in a very like small enclosed space, so that could have been it too.
I mean, it could have just been the surroundings
the atmosphere.
in general.
Yeah.
And you know, that's the other thing. It's like people talk about having certain feelings or emotions when they go into a place. And not that I'm a skeptic, but at the same time I sit there and think, okay, well, if you know the history and you know how horrible it is, some of that from a psychological standpoint does play into how you feel going into a place. It's like, you know, you go to a wake, you're not going to go in there like dancing a jig, right?
I guess it depends on whose wake it is.
Appropriate behavior, I guess so. But you act appropriately. And I think that if you know the story of the orphanage and you know, because obviously the first thing they do is give you the history. Now, if they did it in reverse, that would be kind of cool, right? Mm-hmm. So if they said, okay, we're going to give you a tour, and they just brought you into the basement and you knew nothing about it, and that's why going in blind, so to speak, is really cool, or it makes it more valid.
And what we used to do for like home investigations, so you'd have like 1 or 2 people go on a preliminary investigation to see where you want to set up the cameras, what the activity reports are, and then the rest of the team...
Make sure they weren't just trying to get on TV.
Yeah, and then the rest of the team comes in later, and they're kind of blind. We're just saying we're going to set this up here, and whatever they get, and if it validates, that's great, but you don't want to contaminate anything.
Mm-hmm. So I feel like a lot of those emotions, not to say that you don't feel them, you do, but I think a lot of times when you know the story of a location, you kind of almost mentally you're there already. Like you feel horrible that all these children were tortured. It wouldn't be the kind of place you'd walk into and go, woohoo! Like, you know, I don't know. It's just one of those things. I will say, and this is just for me, like, and I think we talked about this before, like going to Salem for me, the first time I ever went there, do you know that feeling like when you go on a trip and you're coming home, and that it's not just the idea of going home, but it's that, okay, you know, I had a great time, but I can't wait to sleep in my own bed, and like be in my familiar surroundings, and if I have to go home, like I can't wait to just get there, right? That feeling, that's the feeling I had the first time I went to Salem. Like the very first time. And I'm not talking about I got there and felt like that there. I'm talking driving in. So I didn't know how far we were from like the center of town. I because those were the days of MapQuest. You know, we weren't using GPS that said, you know, you'll be there in a minute.
Yeah.
You know, I printed out the directions. I'm aging myself. But before we had actually gotten, like, I was started to get into a certain area, and I'm like, it feels like going home. So, you know, those types of things, when people have that kind of feeling, it's different. But just like walking into the dungeon of an orphanage, you kind of go, well, if you're feeling kind of crappy, I can understand why.
Yeah.
So, again, I'm not trying to dismiss it, but that's one of those things that I kind of sit there, less credence, or paranormal.
Right.
I should say. Not to say you don't feel it.
Right.
I don't know if it's paranormal or not.
Yeah, I mean, if you feel a certain way and then you catch an EVP to back it up, that's something else.
You get a temperature drop.
Right, but it's...
And even there, like, especially there, temperature changes. It's hard to say because...
My only complaint about Gettysburg was I think everything shut so early.
Yes.
Because we're like, oh, let's go out! And then we got, and everything was shut, and we're like, I guess we'll just go to the hotel room.
Well, in the hotel, fortunately, we were able to hang out there. Like,
Yeah.
they had a bar area because they knew obviously people are tourists and they're going to want to hang out. And what better place if everything else is closed? You're going to cash in because they don't have any other choice.
Right.
I have a picture somewhere of us all like sitting on the floor and like the chairs.
Oh.
Do you remember Steve's brother claiming to have epilepsy?
Yeah.
When we were taking pictures? Yeah. So there's that. But yeah, we had a good time. I would definitely go back. It's funny, I was thinking about that when I was doing my research. I'm like, I wouldn't mind. Can we just wait? I'm not saying it has to be hot.
No,
I do not want to
hot
go
and muggy. Maybe
in
like
July.
spring or fall would be nice.
That would be delightful. I am so down for that. Like, we'll go. You know what I was thinking would be kind of cool? Would be to do this, like, a live, maybe like a meet and greet kind of thing, if anybody's interested.
Because
I know, well, I know, I realize, like, I say this and then I realize, like, nobody emails us. Nobody follows us, really. Like, we don't have that interaction. Okay, you're talking about two people who clearly like to be out there. Like, we're putting ourselves out there. I would like to believe that I'm an extrovert. I can pretty much talk to anybody.
I think
You have to get to know people first.
Yeah, I'm really quiet.
Yeah, so...
If I don't like you, forget it.
If we're together, then I can like introduce and start the conversation. And when you feel comfortable, you can jump right in. But I feel like it would be a cool thing to do if anybody actually wanted to meet us, like in person, and just have conversation.
Yeah,
Be cool.
I would love to camp over there. I wonder if they do
In the
camping.
spring,
Or the
after
fall.
rainy season.
Or the fall.
Yeah, fall isn't too rainy. I mean, it's rainy, but not quite as rainy as the spring.
Yeah, and most of the bugs have gone back to hell.
Yeah, because I've gone camping with an unexpected rainstorm, and thankfully we tied our tent to a tree because I could feel the water rushing underneath the tent. And we weren't far from like a little, it wasn't really a ravine, but it was enough of a drop that it would hurt like hell if you fell off of it as you floated off on your inflatable mattress in your tent. Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah.
I think we should do that.
I think so too. And I remember, I don't think you were in the quacking elevator. Do you remember that elevator? Every time we went, it went, wah, wah.
Was that in Gettysburg or was that in Binghamton?
That was Gettysburg, I think.
Was it?
Because every time I get into an elevator now and it does that, that's what I think of.
Oh my god. We'll have to go back there and see if we can get the quacking elevator again.
Yeah.
That was fun.
It's a good trip.
So yeah, we will definitely post the EVPs. Pardon me as I have a moment. For the YouTube, I guess like I said, I would imagine that we'll just add it to the comments or something. And then for the audio version, you
will insert it.
I will insert it. Insert here. No, probably what I'll do is just put it like after our outro. Not like the music outro, but like I'll put it at the end after we've said goodbye. I will add it on.
Yes.
Do we have any idea what the hell we're doing for our next episode?
I would like to do the one that we said we would wait for Bill with, but I don't know how the hell we're all gonna squish here. The murdery man. The murdery man, because there haven't been any of those in any of these podcasts that we've done so far. There's been no murdery men for sure. I think we only have one murdery. No, that's why I was gonna say one murdery woman, but then I realized it's like on the tip of my tongue.
It's an unusual name.
Or Baumeister.
Yes, that's it.
Yes. I would like to do that with him.
I'm sure he would appreciate that. I think he would like that.
Because he brought that up when we had him on.
We're gonna need a bigger table. You know, we could use the folding table. I could bring that over, and maybe it'll stir up some ghosts of the past for us, because it's actually the table we used to use for the
evidence review.
The evidence review, and also to set up the equipment when we go on investigations.
God.
Maybe it's haunted. Maybe we brought shit with us from investigations, and it explains all the hell going on around me in general, because it's been in my house.
I'll smudge you.
Just set me on fire.
That'll take care of the problem.
Wrap me in sage and set me on fire. Problem solved. But yeah, so, if you're watching this video, please comment and
subscribe.
And subscribe, of course. Yes.
Like,
well, I thought that was a given. I thought that was like a duh. Derp. All right. Clearly, it's not a given. Subscribe and please comment. Let us know that you're out there and that it's not just random things happening the internet isn't just
And
randomly
I know
downloading.
people are watching and looking, and because there's a lot of views and stuff, and then
How many were we to now? Last time I looked, it was like 12 or 13. Oh no, it was 13 because my coworker watched it, and she was lucky number 13 to watch
it's 20 something now.
Woohoo!
But and people are definitely listening to the podcast.
Yeah.
So
yeah, please. What is it? gravecrimespodcast@gmail.com, and follow us on the Insta
on the Instagram at Grave Crimes Podcast,
and the Twitters,
the tweets, and
and we have Facebook.
a Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So those, standard things.
And we're gonna have a website one day.
Yeah, we keep saying that. I'm determined that we're actually not. I mean, maybe if we get some sponsors and stuff, that would be great. Because the nice thing about our social media is that generally we'll post. Did we post the recipe for the drink?
Gotta
We
do
need
that.
to do that. But we'll post the recipes for the drinks that we make. So if it sounds interesting to you, ooh, that's gonna be noisy. If this sounds and looks interesting to you, then you can make it. I mean, certainly I've told you the name of it, so you can, what the hell you need to ask for? What am I talking about?
Ooh. I have a good idea for next episode, but I'm not gonna say.
Oh, she's gonna surprise me afterwards. Cool. But we post pictures. We post pictures of the location and any kind of interesting things that we can get, and obviously EVPs if we have them. So interact with us. We really, really, really appreciate that. We're feeling so lonely. I feel so lonely. I could die. Oh, sorry. Anyway,
I'm not gonna spell that right.
She's taking notes. All right. So I think that's it for this episode.
Yes.
Not too bad without having notes.
Right.
I think I did pretty darn good.
Yeah, I did.
Thanks. I shall take a bow as I drop my drink in my mouth. Okay. Moving right along.
Yes.
Have a wonderful day, night, whatever it is you're doing. I'm gonna go to a hockey game.
I'm gonna paint my bathroom. So excited.
I asked her to come. She said no. So.
I am so down because I love sports, but I need to know what's going on, and I don't want to be at a live hockey game and we're going, what was that? What was that?
I will tell you.
We should.
It's so much more fun when I bring somebody who has no clue what the fuck is going on.
I do like the fights.
So I'm telling you, the game isn't until 7:30.
I gotta do my bathroom. Maybe.
What about tomorrow? You can paint tomorrow. What are you doing tomorrow? You don't do anything tomorrow.
I don't know.
You get up at the ass crack of dawn, go in there and paint tomorrow morning.